guys, so I'm pretty much going back to my roots with this video. I used to talk about a lot of British, UK YouTubers. It was mainly like the Brit crew, the OG, you know, Zoella, Alfie, Marcus Butler, the whole lot of them. And that was pretty much how I got my start. I mean, if you guys have been here since the beginning, Zoella's literally what made my career. Her book, I'm forever grateful. And yeah, that's just kind of how I started. It was very much just like UK because that's all I knew back then. And I feel like over the course of my channel, we've pivoted more to US influencers because that's kind of what's on top right now. I can't really pinpoint many UK influencers that are like massive right now. There is like Madeline Klein, but she like rarely gets, not Madeline Klein, oh my god, Madeline Argy, but she doesn't really get into drama that much. We have like Olivia Neal. There are a few people that are like big, but they're not really getting into drama. They're not on my radar essentially. So it's definitely pivoted over to US stuff. But now we're back to my good old days. And I don't know if you guys know who I'm even going to be talking about today. So this is like a journey that we're going to go on. But I was so angry when I saw this. I actually needed to take like a week off from even thinking about this. This literally happened like just under a week ago. And I was supposed to talk about this when it first happened, but I had to gather my thoughts. I would end up saying things that I regret and I would end up coming across really mean. So I think I just needed a minute to like think about everything. But subscribe to the bell icon for engagement. Let's just get into it. So there is a YouTuber called Josh Pieters. He is originally from South Africa, but he is living in the UK and is considered a UK YouTuber. And he has a channel with a guy called Archie, which I'm gonna get into that in a minute. His name's Archie Manners, and they have a channel called Josh and Archie, and they tend to do a lot of like bigger projects. They'll post less often, but it'll be like a bigger thing, like infiltrating the Just Stop Oil people and things like that. They don't post very often. And just the other day, they posted a video about how instead of buying groceries in the UK because we're going through an economic crisis, you can just fly to Poland and get groceries and come back for cheaper, like all things included. That was their video idea, that was their video concept because of the economic crisis. Now, before we get into everything, I am Polish. So I know I haven't lived in Poland for a while, but I have family in Poland. Like I'm clued in. Okay, I'm clued in. And my fellow Polish people will also be clued in. So we will be monitoring the comment section. Their video is called, "Is it cheaper to fly to Poland to do your grocery shop?" And it is now not on trending. For a bit it was number 50 on trending, but that's because it was actually mentioned in a lot of articles. So I'm assuming it was shared around a bit. And I think trending is now kind of based on how shared your video is, rather than, to be fair, no one ever really knew what trending meant. For a bit, trending was like, do you have a friend at YouTube? And now I think it's about like shareability and it kind of leaving the platform and being more of a, like, it's not just like an on-platform topic, it's like being widely shared. I think that can push you further into trending. It's now on 215,000 views. When it was first posted, it was barely like, it was struggling to cross over that 80,000 mark. And I originally found this out because I was on Reddit and a lot of articles were popping up of people kind of linking this video, and then I googled it and there were a bunch of articles talking about this and not really pointing out how tone deaf this whole video is and just how disgusting it is. I hate this video, I hate everything about it. I'm so negative. This is why I didn't film the video 7 days ago when this video came out, because I just needed like a minute. I'm already being super negative and that's just not. I remember I used to be really mean at the beginning of my channel. I don't know if you guys remember this. I was mean. I was super mean. So I'm trying to be chill and relaxed. I have disliked the video and it has a higher dislike to like. I think it's on like 60% dislikes to about 40% likes, which isn't great. They haven't lost any subs, but to be fair, they haven't really been gaining any subs either recently, so I think that their channel's just on a bit of a stagnant, and that's, once again, I'm just saying things. Let's not nitpick if I'm attacking certain things or not. I'm just saying they didn't lose subs because I think they're not at like the height of their career anymore, so there is less of that. Now, Josh Pieters is mainly just influencer, does YouTube. He was friends with like Casper Lee and that whole crowd of people, so that's how he got his start. Archie Thomas Manners is a British comedian, magician and television host. He hosted The Royal World, a reality television series on MTV International, which aired in 2018, and he and Josh Pieters host a YouTube channel with more than 1 million subscribers. Now, he is actually kind of rich, extremely rich. I think this is who you would call a Tory, and the first thing I thought about with this is like, being a Tory is not really the problem in this. It's the like behaving like the stereotype of what a Tory is. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not saying, oh my god, every single Tory is an evil person and you all deserve to die. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's a certain stereotype that people, when people say you're a Tory or that is a Tory, they're not actually saying like, oh, that is just who you vote for. They mean like the behavior behind what Tory means. And he is the perfect depiction of that. Now, he claims a lot of his satire. He claims that he is kind of, a lot of it is inspired by what his dad sounds like or what his granddad sounds like. And it's supposed to be satire, but the thing is, you are rich. And the thing is, you were a Tory activist. So where does satire and irony end and reality start if you actually are what you are joking about? You know what I mean? So he is the great-grandson of Francis Henry Manners, 4th Baron Manners. He is 15th in line of succession to the Manners barony, and as a descendant of John Manners, 3rd Duke of Rutland, 25th in line of succession in the Dukedom of Rutland. Oh my god, I don't even know what any of this means. Maybe I'm just too much of an immigrant for this to understand what this means. He grew up in Hampshire, super expensive area. He had a degree in political studies, of course he did, from University of Bristol. As a Conservative Party activist, he wrote for the right-wing blog Conservative Home and attended the party's conferences in 2010 and 2011. He worked as an intern for a Conservative politician during the 2010 general election. And then since then, he's obviously hosted a few things on E4 and MTV. And then in 2019, he started the YouTube channel with Josh Pieters. They did a few things, like, for example, they pranked Katie Hopkins, who is actually a pretty far-right political commentator, so it's kind of interesting that he used to be right-wing and then now he's pranking far-right. I guess there is a difference between right-wing and far-right. I'm not, you know, an idiot. They did a few things like creating a fake restaurant through Deliveroo. They did a prank at the KSI Logan Paul boxing match, and yeah, so they did a few things. They recently did the Just Stop Oil stuff, but yeah, he's clearly quite... So like I said, it's kind of difficult. Once again, I also think left-wing and right-wing in the UK and left-wing and right-wing in the US is two different things, and I try not to attack people based on things like that. But in the UK, you can be conservative without being a Tory sometimes. Sometimes. Before anyone has a go at me. A Tory is like, you just have to kind of be from the UK to get what I mean. And the first thing that comes to mind when I hear the word Tory is Alfie Days. With that video where he had to live off £1 for a day, but he bought himself diamond earrings, and it's like, that is a Tory. That right there is a Tory. Just someone who has zero concept of the economic crisis, has zero concept of what rent costs, what salaries are, what the minimum wage is. Like, you ask a Tory what's the minimum wage, they have no fucking clue. You ask them how much bread costs, they have no clue. Like, that's a Tory. A Tory is not a political affiliation. Tory is a mindset. And I would say that Archie is probably giving slight Alfie Days Tory vibes. And at this point, I think Josh Pieters also gives slightly, you know, like Alfie Days gives slightly Tory vibes, and therefore the people they affiliate with tend to also give, you know, so then you start opening up the circle and you realize that a lot of them give Tory vibes. But I just wanted to make sure that I let you guys know what background this person comes from for them to behave the way they behave in the video. And once again, they claim this is satire, they claim it's a joke, but when you are the 15th in line of succession to the Manners barony, and as a descendant of John Manners, 3rd Duke of Rutland, 25th in line of succession to, you know what I mean? Like, it's not actually satire. Like, you are just a Tory. And that's fine. You can be that, but don't try and play it off as like a joke. I think everyone just calls himself a comedian and then just like tries to get away with everything. And sometimes you can't excuse things by saying, I'm a comedian. It's just a joke. Because it's not a joke that you were a Tory party activist. So it's not a joke. It's actually your reality of life. And if all fails, you just go back to Hampshire and live with your parents in your probably massive house. Like I can see in this picture right here. I wonder if that's his house. So they posted this video and I went on it just to watch it. But I've heard there was someone on Reddit that said this video really sucked. And so I went into this just gonna watch it, whatever. Immediately, all the top comments are critiquing this video. Someone said, in a video highlighting the cost of living crisis, you've undermined it completely by disrespecting the one person offering you something for free. And that's when I knew I was in for a ride. Now, if you guys don't know, I'm actually not going to show you this part of the video because they did end up doxing someone, which is, I'm pretty sure, illegal in most places. I don't actually know the exact laws for that in the UK. I did not finish my law degree, but it's illegal in most places to dox someone. So essentially, the concept of this video is they find a cheap flight to Poland. What they looked for online was a cheap/free place to stay. And someone was actually offering on the internet a free place to stay if you are struggling and if you are, you know, traveling through Poland and you have no money, they'll offer you a roof over your head. Now, is it going to be glamorous? Probably not. Is it going to be luxurious? Probably not. But is it going to be free? Yes. So they find this free spot. Bear in mind, these two millionaires find a free spot to stay, find super cheap flights. They go and they dox this man, make fun of him, and then leave to stay in a hostel because they didn't want to sleep in that bedroom, which was just a pull-out sofa. Yeah, it looked a little bit stained. But bear in mind, the people that are going to take this property and take this person up on their offer of a free stay are not people who are snobs or billionaires or millionaires or 100,000 pounders. I don't know what you would call someone that isn't a millionaire, just a rich person, a financially well-off person. Yeah, those are not the people that are going to be staying in that property with that person, and they are just going to be happy to have a roof over their head and a safe place to stay, hopefully safe. The thing is, if they did feel unsafe in that property, it's completely fine. If you felt like someone was listing a free property to like prey on people, you can always reach out to the police, you can file a police report, you can warn people, but to dox someone because you found the living conditions not up to par for a free property is a little bit, and to dox the person, you know, you showed his name, surname, the outside of his house, the inside of his house. It's absolutely disgusting that you would do that to someone who's just offering up a free place to stay in a spare room that he has, on a spare couch that he has. This is clearly not supposed to be a luxurious staycation. It's supposed to just be a helping hand for people who are struggling financially. And then they stay in a hostel, and once again they complain. You're staying in a hostel. I don't really know what you if you wanted to get a luxurious experience, then fly to Poland for a week, stay in a 5-star hotel and get the good. This was clearly supposed to be like doing this on the cheap. So to then drag all of Poland because you're doing it for the cheap is absolutely ridiculous to me. But anyway, I can't show you guys this part of the video because I don't feel comfortable exposing this man who was doing nothing but just being super charitable to someone who he thought needed help. Now, another thing, calling Polish money monopoly money, because it's like small and plastic, keep, I guess, but like it's just rude. Completely diminishing the place they only showed like ugly parts of. I feel like they were doing this on purpose. They showed like a part that was under construction, or like they showed nothing nice. Bear in mind, this is what that city looks like that they stayed in. It's absolutely amazing. It's basically considered like Poland's Amsterdam. It looks really amazing. It looks stunning. I think you can get amazing holidays in Poland. I highly recommend. And is it going to be affordable to you if you're from the UK? Absolutely, because of this thing called currency. Now, this whole video, like once I thought harder about it, this whole video concept just falls apart because of currency. So, for example, I looked up how much a pound is in Poland, and it's about 5 Polish zloty, which is the currency that we have. It's about 5.11, I'm pretty sure, when I checked. But that obviously fluctuates all the time. So let's just say 1 to 5. So for £1, you get 5 Polish zloty, right? Which already makes it kind of easy to fly to Poland on holiday versus flying from Poland to the UK. Because in Poland, if you have 500 Polish zloty, in the UK, once you convert the money, you're only gonna have £100. There's only so much you can do. Whereas if you're coming from the UK to Poland on holiday, you can bring £100 and all of a sudden you have 500 and you feel rich, right? Now, are things cheap for Polish people in Poland? No. But are things cheap for British people in Poland? Yes, because of currency. It's not like Poland isn't going through an economic crisis, or it's not like people in Poland can't afford things in Poland. So this whole idea falls apart. The only reason that you guys are finding things in Poland cheap is because the produce in Poland is typically sourced from Poland. So it's priced with Polish people in mind and the Polish currency in mind. However, if you were going to buy a Nintendo Switch, it is not going to be a 1-to-1 conversion, right? So if a Nintendo Switch costs £300 in the UK, it's actually going to cost 1.5 thousand Polish zloty. So clearly, it's not like things are cheap. Like, yeah, a banana might be £1 here and 1 Polish zloty here. And that might be like, oh my God, it's such a great deal. Yeah, because of currency and because Poland typically tries to source things in Poland so that they can price it for Polish people and for the Polish currency and for the Polish market. I don't want to explain economy. I didn't do an economy degree. All I know is currency is a thing. And if you go from a strong currency country to a weak currency country, you're going to feel rich. But if you live in the weak currency country, you're not going to feel rich. And you're going to also feel like you're going through an economic crisis. This whole video actually just falls apart, and it just once again shows the idea. Like, they just didn't think about this. They didn't think about maybe people in Poland are also struggling. Like, they just didn't think about that. And I mean, there is that concept of Americans flying to like Mexico to get BBLs or veneers, and there is a concept of British people flying to Turkey to get their teeth done. So clearly we understand the concept of a weak currency and a strong currency, and we understand how that changes things. And we also understand that that does not mean that country is cheap. It just means it is cheap to you because of your strong currency, because otherwise everyone in Turkey would be walking around in veneers, but they don't, because not everyone can afford a set of veneers, even in Turkey, despite it being cheap. It's not. It's just a currency difference. So this whole video just fell apart immediately. When I started thinking about it, I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. Then they started making fun of goats. Everyone stood around this town hall in Poznań, which is the city that they went to, and these goats come out of the clock every noon, and they were like, oh, this is shit. Obviously I'm going to show those clips to you guys.
You honestly would have thought Barack Obama or Mother Teresa's
There we go.
It's not exciting.
There we go.
What a lot of shade.
So the goats in Poznań are because this town hall actually burnt down, then they rebuilt it. It's from the 13th century, so it's obviously super, super, super vintage. It's a vintage town hall. And they added in the goats later on when they rebuilt it after it burnt down. There's a whole lore and a myth behind it. I'm not going to go into all of it. It's to do with the guy that was almost killed. And yeah, it's just an amazing story. It's an amazing little thing that they do. You know, this town hall's super old, and yeah, it's just something people look forward to looking at, and to just sit there and be like, oh, this is shit. This is so shit. You know what I mean? It's just so disrespectful. I absolutely hate these two people. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. I absolutely hate this video though, and I kind of hate these two people. Anyway, hate's a strong word. Highly dislike, maybe, is the thing. Anyway, someone said, full respect to, I'm not gonna say his name, it is such a kind thing to open your home and make yourself vulnerable to strangers so people you don't know can have a roof over their head. Wasting food, they also wasted the food. Mocking other cultures and turning your nose up at the idea of free basic shelter is possibly the most misguided way to stand up for the working class, which is a proper Tory mindset to have, is to not understand the working class at all. Once again, this is why I don't want to make this super political. I think when I say Tory, please don't think about politics, don't think about ideologies, just think about what Tory means as almost like a derogatory term. I think our politics are very different to the US as well, so because I have a really high US audience, I want to make sure that I'm not slating a political party. It's very different in the UK, and Tory doesn't really mean conservative. It's like Tory is just like a mindset, it's a lifestyle, and it's just the type of person who is so out of touch with what the working class is going through. As a working class Englishman, these guys are an embarrassment. Apologies to the good people of Poland. The disrespect towards the city's goat tradition and calling Polish currency monopoly money was enough to rub me the wrong way. But then seeing the way you guys portrayed the man was genuinely hurtful to a man kind enough to offer you a roof over your head for the night. Couch surfing is a great resource for travelers on a budget and definitely not known for being luxurious. And the food waste made me cringe as well. You could have just done the math instead of spoiling a whole trolley of food. Really not impressed this time. Then there's a comment in Polish. You put the man's real name and surname and showed where he lived only to show a few unfavorable shots of his house and leave. They made up an excuse and laughed about it in the video. You know he's 100% going to see this, right? You could have just cut that portion of the video out if it's uncomfortable for you, instead of making fun of the guy who offered you hospitality for free. That's not just being a dick, it's also doxing, which is illegal. Let me just actually look that up. Is doxing illegal? UK. Harassment. The Protection of Harassment Act 1997 makes it illegal to engage in course of conduct that amounts to harassment of another person. If doxing is done with the intention to harass or distress the victim, it may be prosecuted under this act. So I mean, I guess it depends if you think he might get harassed for this. In the UK, doxing is illegal and there are particular laws against threats of violence against women. Oh, what? I'm just seeing like snippets and they're giving me context that I didn't ask for. It can depend on the circumstances. So it can constitute an offence under a number of UK laws. So I guess it just depends what you're using the doxing for. Is it to incite harassment? Is it to, cause violence to someone? I mean, this could definitely cause harassment to this person. It could definitely end up in violence. Someone finds this person and is not right in the head. Oh my God. I just saw this. This was literally posted 3 days ago. It's the man from the video that they doxed. Okay, so he actually wrote a comment in English. Slay. Okay, well, I guess I should at least address it. So, as what's presented in the video is far from what happened in reality. The beauty of YouTube, everyone. First things first, thank you to everyone for all the supporting comments, even if a couple were a little less so. To be honest, I'm quite surprised by this video myself, as one, that's not a deal we've had. Two, they were quite friendly in person. We've had an enjoyable chat, including discussing some British panel shows I've been watching when they arrived. I would assume that's why the TV is blurred for copyright reasons. However, to set the facts straight, I admit my flat was not in the best condition. They knew it. They've been warned beforehand, and my hosting status as maybe partly because of that, and I did encourage them to try and find a different host as mine was not truly ready for guests, but I would still be willing if I'm the only option. Makes sense as to why, like, the sofa had stains on it. Maybe this was something that he was like not prepared for. It was a mess, he had a few, this seemed like a spare room that he like keeps as storage, so he just put stuff in that room. And so maybe he was just setting up the website, setting up his hosting little listing, but he wasn't super ready to host people yet, because maybe he was going to get people to come in, clean, organize, and then he was ready to have that room be, for hosting purposes. But they were probably adamant on staying there, and then they made fun of him. Two, I agreed to host them mostly because the feel of the whole piece was supposed to be, as it was described to me, showing the absurdity of British food prices and presenting couch surfing as a viable option for staying if you want to do it on the cheap. Clearly he was lied to about that. As some have guessed, by the time they arrived at my place, it was already agreed they would not be staying. However, the reason was never some fake family emergency. I don't know how much of it is true, but the story that was given to me was that they managed to switch to a flight the same day. I was even given an exact hour of the flight, so it might have actually been true. I'm not sure about the hostel scene though. 4, they did however film several variants of the story, one being we found a better flight, but we could have stayed here if we didn't, that I was told, and they even prepared a version where they pretended to go to sleep after all, which was the most prevailing variant for most of the time. One of the reasons why I don't really speak much on camera is not just because of how they cut it, but I just didn't want to take much part in the fake stay version. I'm neither good nor comfortable with lying. So this whole video is actually just like, it falls apart. 1, because it's a dumb concept. 2, because you have 2 out of touch men making a out of touch video, and 3 because it's actually all fake and they lied. To be honest, if they presented either of those variants, I'd probably be fine and would have left the topic alone, but I'm not comfortable with the way it got presented in the end, as this is not what we agreed upon. Somehow I'm not surprised that in the end I didn't get a message from them when the video went up. So do with that what you like, but judging from that bit, including me, I'm starting to wonder how much of the rest was also fabrication. Oh my god, we're getting first-hand experience from the person included in this video. Anyway, Paul, name of the man, all he wanted to do was help, and Boris Jr. just shat all over his hospitality. I see why the world hates us British people, entitled much. Now, I don't mean to shit on British people. I live in the UK, I have British friends, but there is a certain stereotype about tourism. Now, I actually want to say in 2018, Brits made up top 3 tourists in Poland based on nationalities, so clearly British people really like going to Poland on holiday, so I don't understand this whole like, oh, it's monopoly money, this is so shit, like pointing at monuments. But also, there was an article from the Financial Times, and it's actually locked now and I have to subscribe. It was basically about how during the pandemic a lot of borders shut down, and when they started reopening, a lot of countries were really hesitant to start letting British people back in as tourists because British people tend to be not people's favourite tourists. I've heard pretty negative stories about British tourism to other places, how destructive they are, how drunk they get, how, you know, they shout, they scream, they get into fights, they drink outside, they puke all over things, you know, and it's never families with children or, you know, older couples maybe. It's always the like young lads with the young lad holidays that go on like bachelor parties, and they just think if a country has a weaker currency and is cheap, they can treat it however they want. And that's pretty much the mindset that a lot of young British men have when they go on holiday. Sadly, if you're a young British man that goes on holiday and behaves himself, good for you. That is not what usually happens. So there's definitely been talks about, you know, how countries are kind of like, we're hesitant to reopen the borders because it's actually been quite peaceful and things don't get destroyed anymore. But obviously a lot of countries rely on tourism, so mainly from countries with a stronger currency. I don't know why I put that in quotation marks. So that was that. I always like film, but because I have my planning done just all over my laptop, I always just end up missing something, so I want to make sure that I've got everything. Also, in the description of the video it says this video contains paid for advertorial. I don't know if they just put that as standard in every single description, but first of all, that is not enough of a disclaimer for an ad. If you're actually getting sponsored content, that wouldn't constitute like actually just like a disclaimer for an ad, so maybe let's change that. But also didn't really see an ad in this video, so I'm confused. But let's actually check now how this video is doing dislike wise, since it has a few more views now. There are like websites, they've obviously removed dislikes from the actual YouTube website, but you can just go on random like third-party websites. I'm using just some random one. You just put in the link. There we go. So it's 215,000 views, 4,318 likes, 8,295 dislikes with a 66% dislike to like ratio, and 1,167 comments, out of which all the top ones are definitely critiquing them and they're just out of touch behavior. I actually ended up saving the video because I thought they were going to be smart enough and just delete it and maybe put out an apology, but no, they've just kept it and they haven't really said anything on their social media platforms since then. Now, I also went on the r/Poland subreddit, which is actually a subreddit about Poland in English, because there are also subreddits about Poland in Polish, but this one is in English. And this was 6 months ago. It's a poll called I think British tourists in Poland are very polite and nice, create positive impression, are somewhat polite and nice, neutral, blend with the locals, are generally ignorant and rude, or 5, are very rude and disrupt public order, cause problems. Now, the main one that was picked was neutral with 1.4 thousand votes. The second one was are generally ignorant and rude with 1.3 thousand. Number 3 is are very rude and disrupt public order, cause problems with 1.1. And then we have are somewhat polite and nice with 500 votes and are very polite with 277 votes. So there are definitely quite negative perceptions of British tourism in different places. That's not just Poland. It's a lot of countries. And like I said, it's not all age groups, it's specific demographics. And these guys fall into that demographic and they've just proved that. Like they've literally proved just that. I also found just the like joking about not being able to pronounce things. There are ways to joke about that in a way that is funny and like more making fun of yourself and self-deprecating than it is deprecating on the country. But this was very much just like, I can't be bothered to be able to pronounce these things because it's like beneath me. And yeah, I just think the whole thing is not fun. I think Poland is a great country. I love going there on holiday every time I go. I would love to live there. I think it's safe. I felt super safe when I went to Poland, even in capital cities. Our capital city actually has one of the lowest crime rates, all the capital cities in Europe. And I just feel super safe there. I think everything's beautiful. We have a lot of green spaces. It doesn't feel so like industrial. I think Poland's an amazing place to go on holiday. We have the beach, we have the mountains, we have the cities, we have our local Amsterdam. I just think it's an amazing place to go on holiday, and this just gave such a bad vibe, and this was just such a, oh, they're beneath us. mentality, and I think it didn't prove the point that the video was set out to prove, and it actually shat on the working class more than it helped the working class, which is what I'm assuming it was supposed to do. I'm now just rambling on. Let me know what you guys think. This is very much Alfie Days I'm Not a Tory vibe, and I would love for them to maybe recreate that video, you know, just sit down and say I'm not a Tory and just cut the camera. And yeah, so subscribe with that bell, comment for engagement. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.